Bonjour. Bonsoir. Bonjour. How's it going, everybody? What's good? What's good? Thank you, Tenacious T. I appreciate it. Well, it was yesterday, little birthday. Well, 2 years on the old YouTube. Alright, should we flick this round? Let's flick this round. There we go. Bonjour, bonsoir. Lovely. Okay, you'll need to let me know if you can hear. I can't hear anything today. I can't hear any music at all. Don't know why it's not working, but it is what it is. What's up, Brett? What's up, Sandra? What's up, Milo? Yeah, you guys can hear the music, but I don't know why I can't for a change. It usually always plays through the laptop, but it's not playing. So I just got to sit here in silence for a couple of hours and just chat to you lot. That's all I can. Also, what I've done was I recently had to buy a works phone, which is now taken over this contraption's job as the face cam. So that's now gone because the quality was awful. So that's now changed. So there's now this camera, which is my work phone now for this Joel Create stuff. And there's some nice little effects on there now, like a little sort of portrait mode and stuff like that. So it should look a little bit crispier, look a little bit nicer. It should deal with like lighting a lot better now as well. So hopefully that comes through on your end looking all lovely. Hopefully I'm looking all pretty. Okay, let's flick this around. And that's probably a topic that I'll probably talk about at some point on the stream as well. Like a work-life balance kind of thing. But today what we're going to do is, some of you may remember this. I drew it on a live stream. Should we have a look? Canvas information. Wow, Jesus. March last year. So almost a year ago I drew this on stream. That doesn't feel like that. That only feels like a few months ago. But what I'm trying to do is, I think this is a really good use case for, one, I always wanted to do something with this design and the concept of it. But I never got around to making it into a tutorial or anything. I also think it's a really good use case for kind of sort of artistic development. So what I mean by that is like, I feel like what I've learned in the last few months and my own practices and my own work would make this a lot nicer than what it is. You know, this was a great starting point. It still looks quite nice, but I think that, you know, based on, you know, like I said, you know, further development of my own skills, I think this could look a little bit nicer, and it would be a nice way to revisit it with a few of the different skills that we've been practicing recently. So I'm going to use this as a sort of guide. Let me just quickly flick this around, because what I did was, and at the time sort of saved myself some work ahead of time, maybe I knew I was going to do this one day, is I made a grayscale version of it initially, and then I duplicated it so we had a backup ready to go. So I basically have all the structure ready for me to carry on. So yeah, that is that's looking like we've got a nice little foundation to work off. We've got lots of skills we've learned that we can maybe change it up a little bit, or just do something different in general. Probably thinking like a little bit of like the leather wood that I've been using recently for some of the rocks and stuff. The water and the waterfall, you know, I can do a lot more with that, with a couple of the smudge techniques that I've been using. And also the other version, if I actually just show you again, if I just go back to it, sorry, I always flick it around because there's stuff in there that you'll probably see otherwise. There is actually a bit of a light source coming in from the side here. Oh no, there we go. Now it's coming in from the side. You can kind of get a bit more of a light source coming through here, just breaking through some trees maybe, or something like that. And again, I think the stuff that I've been doing more recently, I would overlay that instead for a start, but also that color doesn't look very nice. It looks quite murky. So I'll probably do something like that. So let's switch that around and get back into the grayscale version. and we'll get cracking. So I've already taken apart the palette as well, so I've got that all ready to go in here. I can kind of remember which one's which, so I'll just start chucking on the base colors and seeing where we end up. So how's everybody doing? How is everybody doing? How are you hanging out with us this evening or this afternoon, wherever you are in the world? Let's fill this in. What is this bit here? Let's just remind myself. I think that's the inside of the cave. Okay, that's cool. That can stay as it is. This one here is this row here of colors. So I'm almost going to use the same colors, but I might tweak a few things just to better suit the design in a different way potentially. So it'll look quite similar-ish, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. I can delete that. This rock on the left, we'll fill that in with its correct color, and also this one. Whoa. No, that's right. Into this one here. So I've got a few things that I can work on there, and I'll lower the waterfall down just so I've got an idea as to what I am doing. Awesome, guys. If you're here as well, please be sure to like the video down below. That would be amazing. I appreciate you if you can. What's up, Lindsay? And thank you, Milo. I appreciate that as well. Let's just have a wee little sip of some drink for a second. You're working on the bird's eye tutorial. Beauty, that one. I love that one. Everyone's been quite enjoying that. I think maybe it's just because it's a little bit different in terms of a perspective, isn't it? Which is quite nice. Let's alpha lock that layer. And let's get into the background a little bit, prioritizing a light source and stuff. That's nice. So let's make that a little bit bigger and block that in. And we'll make sure we are a bit more directional with the light source, making sure that that area over there is a little bit brighter, and maybe even I could get away with just darkening up the sky a little bit over on the side that's furthest away, you know, just like a little vignette around the corners. You'll see that come up in a few tutorials, if I've not already started doing it, which I have actually in some of the other ones. Joel, I want to moan, but I'm staying positive. Go on, what do you want to moan about? Go on, get it off your chest. I'm good. This week at work's been interesting because it's like been picking up a little bit. So that's just sort of taking in anticipation of it sort of picking up a little bit more in terms of work to do. So yeah, and then this as well, the little ad for the light source, so I can get like a really good bright light over there. Oh, what headphones are you going to treat yourself to, Milo? Also, things that are further away, this is also another sort of rule, sort of not learn, but I still, you know, it's putting it into practice more, need to be desaturated more. I need to make sure things further away are a little bit more desaturated. So I may even replace that color, which I think was this one here, and we'll set it to the current color instead, just a slightly different version. And then maybe we'll just go in here straight away. We'll try to use the Leatherwood and we'll see what we come up with. The Leatherwood edited by myself, which I think is this one that we've been using recently. I'll probably screenshot that just as a reminder. Almost bedtime in Germany, but I want to watch this live video. Well, Sandra, I appreciate you hanging out. And if you doze off, I won't be offended. But what was I going to say? Oh, the live streams always stay up, Sandra, as well on the channel. So if you ever want to watch it back the next day when you get a little bit more time, it's always there. So I'm just, the trees in the background I always think is an interesting one. Do I just go in from scratch and do it? I don't know. I think what I'll do is I'll get the basics in of kind of the concept, and then maybe I'll redo the trees later on. But I think with the Leatherwood you can do like little scatterings like this, where you're getting a few branches that are just look like they're grabbing a little bit of the light, and we can just sort of brighten up these edges over here, let the Leatherwood do all the work, and just see how it ends up for a minute. We might come back to it and redo them and do them from scratch. Little something like this. That's fine. We could do some cloud work in the sky as well. We've got a cloud color down here, and I like using, which one do I like using again? You need good ones. Well, I use a pair of Sony XM4s, and they're awesome. You can get the Sony XM3s. They've got good noise cancellation. They're really comfortable as well, but they are my go-tos. We could do something like the fluffy clouds that I like doing over here, and just swoop in some clouds, but keeping it a bit skinny. We don't want to put in too many. Just a nice sort of clear sky. That one's a bit too repetitive, and that's something I am also trying to work on a little bit, is repetition of items such as clouds. Little something streaky like that, and then switch the brush also to that brush as well. And then we'll just erase, streak in through here, get rid of the majority of it, really sort of hack away, creating a bit of a streaky sky, as I like to do. I think they always look really good, to be honest. Just a nice sort of very, very light looking sky, just a little something back there, always pointing towards your light source, looks pretty good. And maybe just a little bit closer. We'll just hack away at the edge here. Only temporary. We could go back in and maybe add some more later on. Milo, we are celebrating Joel for 2 years working, doing tutorials for YouTube and us. We're proud of you, Joel, and thank you for all. You are very welcome, Milo. It is a pleasure, as always. Lindsay says, I started the new okay, don't know what that says. This week and 3 days. Oh my God, Troy's gifted memberships, which I'll come to in a sec, is chucking the chat to a point where I can't even read it. It's just stuttering up. This week, 3 days, but in holy. This week, and I'm 3 days in, but holy side effects. I feel sick. And, well, I won't be watching that. What's that then? I don't know what that is. But while you answer that, Troy, thank you so much as always for looking after the community, guys. If you received a gifted membership from Troy, please be sure to drop him a message in the chat and thank him for your little gifted membership. You're a hero, Troy, every single week, my friend. Thank you. Looking after everyone. Well, this looks quite nice, doesn't it? Making some a bit bigger. That's maybe something I can take on board a little bit more. You're welcome, Lindsay. I have no idea what that was. I don't know if it's a program name or what, but I'll leave you to it. Maybe we could do a cool little perspective blur. These are just a minor change before I start to get into the rest of it. So put that there and blur out from that point, which should create some nice light rays on the trees. Yeah, nice little bursting effect. That looks quite nice. Also, that will give me, that light source there gives me a nice opportunity to add in my favourite little lens flare look. Cool, let's get into this then. So I don't know whether to do leatherwood or to do my previous landscape collection of brushes, but we will have to see. I will change it to artistic and the leatherwood first, and we'll see what we come up with. I need to wash out the grey out of all this chat, as always. It's a medication, Joel, to suppress immune system. Gotcha. I appreciate the explanation. Sorry for my ignorance. I don't really know. Let's. Okay, so what I'm thinking here is leatherwood. Standard procedure. We will block in some base colours on these rocks, giving them a bit of a base colour. That's probably a bit too big, and I haven't used the leatherwood for a little while, but I don't remember it being that big. And I need to outline the frame almost of to where the water fall makes its way inside. And then I'm just going to sort of create random boulder kind of shapes with the leatherwood, letting it do all the work as always over the tops of some of these, and making my way across here like so. And then maybe the odd few patches in here just to erode into them in a second, just to give that nice stone look. We want this to be basically chopped into, as I always like to say, in a minute. So we'll do something like this, get some texture in there, and we'll go to the eraser. We will go to artistic, leatherwood. Also, I just realized I think I upped the no, I didn't. 75. And I don't think it's a chop as such, is it? From memory, it is back to the base color and then back on top of there with the brush. Now you moan away, Lindsay, you moan away. And then we will hack away at the top of this, just leaving behind some residue and like overlapping a few things. It was quite reassuring. I was watching Angry Miko. I've been watching him quite a lot recently. I think his work is fantastic and it's fascinating to watch. But he kind of said the same thing about there's a particular topic of you know, if you paint it in with the wrong color, that's fine. You know, you don't need to worry about going back and like completely getting rid of it. What he tends to do is literally just leave it and overlap it in the same way that I'm doing now. So I know some of these are looking pretty horizontal at the minute, but leaving behind that little bit of residue of the color is fine. It allows you to build up some extra tones in your work. So then I'll switch it to maybe some green color. In fact, let's go back to this base color and try to define some of these rocks a bit more. So maybe like a little bit around here on these edges that just run into there, maybe just creating nice random shapes. And then maybe like another one here just close to that edge, because they're going to be our main focus. I'm not too interested in some of this down here, to be honest. I think that will end up almost being completely eroded and sort of faded out by the time I get down there. But for the minute I want to build in the rocks with a couple of light strokes in these areas, just to get ready to add in like that mossy look on the top. So that's got quite a bit of colour on the top, and that actually is coming through quite nicely for you, so that's awesome. Angry Miko is fantastic, love his work, he's so good, he's awesome. Lindsay, the next Patreon tutorial looks great, by the way. Makes me look forward to summer. To the beach design. Do you know what? I forget everything I do these days. I forget so much. Yes, that one's cool. That one again, I drew that ages ago. And it's quite nice to have like a bit of a back catalogue to go to, because sometimes when you're not feeling creative, you can go back and just find one and maybe like, you know, revise it and give it a new sort of lease of life. But it definitely yeah, I drew that ages ago. It's great to finally get it done again. All right, let's be brave here, and I'm gonna chuck on some greens now over the top, like a bit of a mossy. I could even do that on a separate layer, really. A bit of a mossy look on the top of some of those rocks to get started. And just some greenery that's like, because there's water, I imagine that there's a little bit of you know, vegetation and stuff around here, so they'll be on the rocks. It may even be like completely on the rocks. I wonder if I've got I do have another leatherwood that's a bit more randomized and will give me a bit of a less horizontal kind of bladey look. It will give me a bit more of a dotted sort of look. Let's see how that comes out. Lindsay says, your rocks just come together effortlessly. Meanwhile, there's me sweating for hours trying to get the same effect. I tried my best, right, in tutorials to explain what it is I look for, and maybe it's like a really good example of what I could like kind of show you now. is if I go right out of here and we just create a new shape. So it'll be a completely new shape, and then I can explain to you sort of what I look for, because it is a valuable thing to not just copy what I do in a way, like, or any tutor, but to know what to look for. So I'm going to create some bumpy lumpy, as I always say, create some nice bumps and lumps in your design. Like this one's a little bit very rounded, but let's just block that in there for a minute. And we'll use this as an example shape. So in my mind, looking at that straight away, I have to make a decision on what's in front of what and what's in behind certain things. So for example, if I just clip a layer to this for a second, and I'll grab a straightforward brush just to show you what it is I'm looking at. Let's grab a bright color just for a minute to give you some idea on guidelines. So what I do is I look at this and I go, well, in my mind, that is one big boulder here, which then means if I want to do something nice and sort of anti-repetitive, this here could be a boulder as well, but that's going to make that a little bit quite repetitive. So what I can do is I can clearly kind of work out that this is a boulder here, and then maybe I'll just drag that across a little bit and then come round. So then that way, this has a lot of depth now, but from a flat image. So you're kind of saying, well, this is a boulder here, kind of your biggest one. And then you can say that's a boulder there, but then exaggerate the shape. You could even exaggerate this shape a little bit more like this. And then that straight away, that decision forces this little piece of space further back. And then by doing that, you can see that underneath. That's exactly what I'm doing constantly. Those ones at the back now, you can then go in and go, right, well, if that's what I can see in my mind, what I'll then do is alpha lock this layer. I'll leave my little guide on there for a second. I'll grab the greys and we'll just, I don't know, should we try? We'll just use the same brush I'm already using. I think it's artistic, isn't it? The leatherwood. And then we'll drop that guide down. If anything, let's turn it off. So then what I'll do is I'll see that, and let's alpha lock the layer, and I'll just try and force it in. In fact, let's grab maybe a brighter tone just so you can clearly see it for this example. So then I'll go around here and maybe just see where the brush, okay, so it's now flicked off that way. Great, that's awesome. That's going to give me a bit more of a randomness to it. And then I'll just, use the curvature of the shape that you can see, block in some color. And then what I'll tend to do is I'll leave a gap, and then, then just try and work in another kind of shape. So what that then kind of does is kind of quickly and effortlessly, with a little bit more attention, you can make that really pull off, is like that rounds down, but then there's like another ledge on this rock that then blends together on the right hand side. So by leaving sort of gaps and then maybe some strokes here, getting sort of less towards the bottom, that would be kind of one rock. I filled it in quite a lot just as example's sake, but then you would come down this edge here into there and just see where the brush angles into. Great, that goes into there. We'll block in some streaks in there, and then that one at the back, you would probably change the brush, or color even, and then just block that in. And then by doing that, if you zoom out, you've got 3 boulders from one layer, if that makes sense. So that's kind of what I always look for. You would obviously just hack away at this, wouldn't you, and create more of a rocky aesthetic to this and break that down, leaving some more shadowy tones in there. Do the same over here too, kind of break that down as well, and then that to me already comes to life a little bit more. But that's just a basic example. That's always what I'm trying to just look for, is look at the shape and analyze sort of how you can not create, you want to try and create depth out of it by just utilizing its shapes. So here, if we go to this layer, is this layer, let's invert this layer for a second. You can kind of see on the top edges, we're trying to create shapes and then how they lead into one another, but then every gap that you leave is almost like a crevice. It's not getting any light. So, that's kind of what I'm looking for. But that's what I always want to try and educate, is that's the process and how I go about sort of looking at things for that particular sort of requirement, if that makes sense. Sorry, let me just catch up while I was going on that little moment there. I might cut that into a clip actually. The next Patreon, let's come together. Let's leave up the motion in the sky. Oh yeah, that looks quite nice, doesn't it? I made the layer bigger and then put it on. Greetings, Oh, from John, sorry. I completely lost my mind there for a minute. What's up, John? How you doing? The sand looks realistic. Yeah, that little dust brush looks awesome with that particular sort of sandy look. What's up, Robs? How you doing? Looking fantastic, Joel. Well done for 2-year anniversary. I appreciate the support, Robs. Thank you. Thanks for all the likes and support on my IG. You are very welcome. If you're going to spend the time doing my tutorials, I'll give you a little bit of my time as well, just to acknowledge your wonderful work. It's the least I can do. Sandra says, I wish I could see something like that in my mind too. I'm creative, but have no ideas for my own. But the thing is, you'll pick up all these things. Like, sometimes I think to myself, well, are we going to draw that again? Like, kind of thing. But the repetition builds it up in your mind so that the next time then you want to draw some rocks, you'll have all of these things in the back of your mind, or like, you know, something like this, and go, I remember that conversation or that tutorial with Joel and the techniques required to try and pull it off. So lots of small things can always group together eventually to create something really cool. Like last week's live stream, which is a tutorial on Patreon next month. If you saw it last week, you saw it last week. If not, just jump back over to that live stream after this maybe, or take a look at it now. The clouds in the sky design, you know, that one is a build up of a lot of different techniques that I've picked up over the years. So well, it's 2 years now, but you know, over the months and years through different styles and different tutorials. So it all comes together. It's just piecing all these things. Let's be realistic. A lot of us don't have the time, including myself, to just sit down and draw and draw and draw, to do clouds, you know, 5 or 6 times a week kind of thing, to really nail them down. So it's one of those things that you progressively pick up over time. If you're like someone who does like tutorials, for example. Makes sense and explains what you're aiming for when doing the rocks and boulders. Shows how you bring out the depth. Exactly. Bethany says, thank you for the explanation and congrats on the 2 years on YouTube. Thank you, Bethany. I appreciate you hanging out with us. I've seen your name in here loads and loads of times back in the early days. Trust the process. Exactly. Still got to make some merch for that, haven't I? Still got to do it. Lindsay says, also love the apple crisp tutorial you shared. Gonna have to go for that. Is that the 2023 one that she did, or is that the special guest one? Oh, what am I doing? How did I get here? Artistic leatherwood. Yeah. Okay. So now what I'm thinking is we do like a mossy kind of look. That's what I think. I think we try to sort of build up some mossy kind of shapes along here, so facing down towards the water, because of course it would kind of grow in that direction. Some mossy areas here right next to the water of the waterfall and the entrance of it. That looks like it'll be quite nice. A couple of little random patches. Sometimes I always have to teach myself as well, is less is more. So like a little small patch like that will really help the overall design later on. So just little things like that will definitely be something I need to consider a lot more. Lack of repetition in items and less is more. So a couple of little patches of colour on here, a couple of little patches on some of these ledges. I think that will give it a nice green look to it. We can leave some of the boulders at the top. We don't have to do all of them. That'll be fine. There is a big hole here where the waterfall's coming through this sort of cavern-ish area, so I'll do that. And then I think I'll make the brush size a bit smaller and create some smaller little bits in there. These little small ones look really good with this edited version of the leatherwood brush. It's got a really like random, very fine look to it. So that's a little bit of the green on there. And then I think what we'll do is we'll alpha lock that, because I don't want to paint outside of it just yet. I think I'll grab the base color and break that up with a 2%. So we'll break them up, creating some different tones. Let's undo that, because we want that to be at 75%. We want to leave tones like we always do. So some darkening up in there, but leaving that little bit of residue behind of some color. So I wasn't initially going to do the moss with this particular one, if I'm honest. when I started it, it was going to be exactly the same as the original, where there was like grass on the top of there, but I think this might look a little bit nicer. I think it might draw you into the sort of area down here towards the waterfall. So we'll give it a go. I think it's a nice sort of area of practice again for reviving this in a slightly different direction. Apple crisp was awesome. I think I was talking to him the other day and mentioning about they're getting back on it, and that's great. It's good when we've got so many people that you can look to every Friday, Thursday, whatever it is that the release schedule is. Lots of content, lots of fun to look forward to. I was only on that side of it for a very short while in terms of consuming the content before creating the content. So I never had a full schedule lined up or anything to wait for my favorite creators or anything to release a tutorial. I was like bam 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 bam, just got to get everything done that's on YouTube now, and then I was like, well, I need to start making my own. I'm done here. Sandra says, Lindsay, the lighthouse was a challenge, 2 days, but I did it. That's awesome. That lighthouse one's done really well. I'm glad everybody likes it quite so much. It's very fun to do. Okay, let's now go in with a 1% on here. Well, let's get this down. And now this, to me, looks like it's going to be ever so slightly too bright of a colour. I'm going to be daring and I'm going to go for it, but I think it's a bit too bright too early. I think there's not enough extra tones in here to really jump to that level quite so quickly, but we'll see. I'll be nice and sparing with it, add some chunks in where necessary, but just a few sort of chunks of detail. Maybe that will pull it off quite nicely. I feel like it's also too bright. We'll get through this, and I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll actually go back a second. Sometimes when you're unsure, just create a new layer rather than the one that you're on, and obviously just allow yourself some freedom afterwards. If you just want to scrap it completely, you just got to delete the layer. You don't have to worry about going back and undoing a bunch of times. Utilize your layers. That's what they're there for. And I'm already thinking that is too bright too early. Lindsay says, Bethany, me too. There is not enough time. I know that for sure, but I think if I was to turn around and say, yeah, so I'm only going to do 2 tutorials a month from now on, everyone would be like, what? 2? Now I've got time. Okay. It's all good. Let's set this to this colour instead and just see if we can maybe add in, yeah, see, that's nicer straight away. That immediately, to me, gives me a little bit more freedom with the colouring. So I've got some extra green tones in here now, which will round off the shapes a bit more. So some random little splatters of green in here, leaving that base colour underneath. And just giving some of these greens a little bit more depth, a little bit more character. And then we'll go over the top up here. That helps the whole scene kind of give off the effect I'm looking for. I think, to be honest, I would probably have to do an absolute boatload of this green moss stuff for this to kind of look how I want it to. A bit kind of maybe magical, if that's the word I'm looking for. A little bit sort of fantasy kind of look to it. So a couple of these darker tones in here. And then I think if I go in on that layer and alpha lock it and break it up with the base color. Wow, we're getting into some layers here. Break that down again. Break up some of these greens make them a little bit more detailed at the same time. Although you're destroying part of it, you are actually making it more detailed. That is the goal anyway. Then I think I'm going to go back a second before we progress any further and add more greens to some of these boulders. I wasn't planning on doing too much up here, but I think I will try to add in a bit more green. I think it needs a little bit more size. That brush just doesn't want to ever. These magnetic size memory things are good, but they don't half annoy me sometimes. Like they there's just like you can't move too close to it. Like the magnetic nature of them just like draws you into the size that you've got sort of saved. Okay, that's kind of coming together a bit more. Let's then alpha lock it very quickly and go in with the base color and break them up. I must get to the lighthouse one. Actually, I like the drawing ones the best. Lindsay says the Northern Lights effect with the light pen and motion blur was a chef's kiss. What a technique. It's a bit of a cheat, isn't it? But it pulls off the whole thing that we want to do. And that's the thing. Somebody asked me the other day, I think it's a really interesting conversation, is a friend of theirs, which I don't know why they're their friend, if that's the way that they kind of talk to them, but was talking and was saying that like they just started doing digital art, and they were saying, yeah, I know, but it doesn't actually count though. When he's like, what do you mean? He's like, well, you're cheating. He was using a waves brush to add on to water. Onto like like me here, I could use a waves sort of brush, and he was using one, and friend just sort of called him out for cheating really, and said, well, it's not actually art. I said, well, that's rubbish, because if you've just started, which they had, you are just getting started. That's the point. And so like you will pick up on, okay, well, I've used a brush for the ocean a couple of times. Okay, now I feel more comfortable with the app. Let me try and do it myself. Let me try and, do X, Y, and Z myself, rather than use the brush. And that's when you progress as the artist and learn the new skills that you need to. But for someone to tell you that straight away is just absolute rubbish. If you just got started, put it together. You might even be like actually increasing your skill set just for the fact of learning how to create a scene. Like, yes, you're using the water brush or like a rock brush for like textures and stuff, but you're learning how to create and compose a scene like this one for your future work. So you are increasing your skill set, and you are progressing. It's just not, you're not taking it all on at once, and that's what people do, and you just end up giving up because you're trying to do too much in too little amount of time, and you want it all today, rather than just wait a few years for the techniques to come out in your mind and work on them, practice them and perfect them. It takes time. I would say that my art style has changed a lot in the time that I've been doing this whole YouTube stuff, and like the skills in recent times have completely changed. So yeah, there's definitely progression that you can make. So basically, little sort of message there. If anyone tells you anything like that, just tell them. I'll let you translate them. Okay. Let's use the leatherwood for a second before I carry on. All right, let's have a look who's in the chat, because I spot a familiar name. There's Claire. Wow, 2 years, Joel. I appreciate you, Claire, hanging out with us. Good to see you. How's life? Let me scroll back up and see where we are. Let me see where we are. I must admit, I think you're the only tuber I keep up with, Joel. I try to do your YouTube and Patreon ones. Everyone else is optional, I appreciate that, Lindsay. There's always great tutorials out there from other people, so I will never be offended if you decide to take a week off, but just one week off. Lindsay says, do as many layers as you want, Joel. I'm not scared any longer. I have the power now. Is that because you got your new iPad, wasn't it? Sancho says, the light pen for the Northern Lights did not what it should do. No, I thought I was on Do Not Disturb. I am on Do Not Disturb. Why did that come through? 2 seconds. Just flick that around. That is so weird. Why did that come through? That's just interesting. Sorry, 2 seconds. Let me get back to where we were. Let's flick that around again. What was I going to say? What it should do. I had no glow, just a little bit. I don't know why. Joel was so kind to take a look yesterday. Thanks again, but found no error yet. I don't know what that was. I've got no idea. I actually am a bit stuck as to why, but I'll see what I can. I mean, I could actually share you. I tell you what, actually, Sandra, that's what we'll do. Is I don't know if you've fully finished it, but you could potentially revisit it if you didn't flatten your layers. I'll send you my light pen and just see if it makes any difference. It's the built-in one, so I've not done anything to it, but just see if it makes any difference. And then he says, that's so pretentious. Art is art, and formerly traditional artist. It felt like cheat at first, but I'm over that. Yeah, exactly. Milo says, Angry Miko said, focus first on practice on one project and skill, and then move on. Exactly. Right, let's carry on where we were, shall we? What were we doing? It wasn't that. That grey is a little bit too... Maybe I'll grab that grey and just chuck some of that on the edges of some of... Oh, that looks nice. Because the lighting's coming that way, so I think I will create another new layer here on some of these rocks at the top. I'll break into them in a second, but I just want to brighten up some of these rocks to show a little bit more lighting from that area over there. And then maybe a couple more in here. And that they are overall a little bit of a brighter rock. But for sure, that is one thing. Oh, that looks lovely. I'm really happy with that. Those colours look really nice. For sure, practicing too much at once is too much. Like, focus on one thing. I only focus on one thing. Like, I can only, and that's just not only a time. I mean, that's kind of more of a realistic kind of approach, to be honest. Is that we all don't have enough time that we'd want to do on the things we want to do. Like, you know, I'd love to sit and draw for hours on end. I'd love to do an Angry Miko basically at some points of just drawing for 8 hours on one piece, but I can't. I just don't have the time. It doesn't work with what I do in terms of the content that I create. But, you know, I can't devote too much time to do that sort of stuff. And like, I don't think anybody else should either. You know, just take it easy. Practice on one thing at a time. Practice on your cloud work or your trees or your waterfalls or whatever it may be, or just brush uses, or use the same brush for as many designs as you can and master it. Learn how it works. You know, I keep using the leatherwood brush here because I want to master it. I want to make sure that I know how it works to the point where I'm happy and confident every single time I use it that it's the right brush for what I'm trying to do. So yeah, just do lots of little things. This is coming together quite nicely. I quite like how that looks. I think what I will do next, I might, what's the time? How long have we been doing it? 45 minutes. Okay. I think what I'll do is I'm going to drop the silhouette of the trees down, and I might just do them manually, just to see what I can come up with potentially. They may look rubbish, but that's the risk I'm willing to take. We will do our standard procedure of, let's grab the shale brush, for example, draw in those trees. I like the composition of them, so I think it's worth just utilizing that a little bit. So where all the main trunks are, I really like the layout we've got going on. A couple more in there, and then we'll go to artistic. We'll go to leatherwood. Yeah, so maybe we can get away with this. Maybe we can just do something like this, just to sort of tie it into the style a bit more. we might be able to just basically go sideways, and then the odd little random flick up and diagonal kind of thing, not to the point where it leaves the tree like that, Joel, but just a little something like that will do the trick. And I think even, oh no, actually I'll tell you what, we'll keep it nice and transparent so that I can just go up and down the trunk a few times, creating that tree. And I think that also needs to run in behind here. What I might have to do, just so you're aware, is I might have to duplicate that layer afterwards and just see if I can get a bit more depth to it. But we'll see how it works out. Rob says, I do so many things I get bored with doing one style. I do realistic, abstract, landscape. If you see my IG, I have many different styles. But so to contradict myself a little bit, at the same time, it depends on what it is you're trying to achieve. You know, if you're trying to just have fun, just do tutorials, like I've said to loads of times, if you never want to do a design yourself from your own creativity and your own thought process, and you just like doing tutorials, they're just like a nice escape, just something fun to do when you've got, like, you know, an hour or whatever, that's what you want to do. That's how you enjoy the art. That's how you enjoy the release and the escape from whatever, doing it. So just continue doing that. Like, if that's what you're happy with doing, just do that. Like, it doesn't matter. But at the same time, if you don't want to do, you know, focus on one thing, and you're not so much interested in the concept of, like, you know, increasing your skill sets, you know, very hyper specifically by doing one thing, again, that's just what you want to do, you know, that is just what you want to do. We got to get on the Discord, Robs. I want to see your art. Yeah, for sure. Please, guys, share your art, no matter what you're creating. Anything in my Discord doesn't have to be my tutorials. It can be anything you have been working on. You can share whatever you want in that group, so feel free to share anything you've been working on. It could be a flow tutorial, it could be your own work, it could be a tatty, designs, anything you're working on, just feel free to share it in there. Okay, I think I like them trees because I think that they just give a little bit more, they tie into the character a little bit. So all I'm doing here is just scribbling up and down the trunk and just giving them different weights, a little bit thicker towards the bottom. They've got nice little gaps in them. When you zoom out, they really kind of fit the aesthetic, which is quite nice. So I know I'm way zoomed out there for you, sorry. But yeah, just filling in. God, the whole desk is shaking by doing these. Let's maybe just try and block in a loose tree there in the background, maybe, and a nice gap. And I think I like the fact that some of those were actually 75%, because they have like a little bit of a lighter look to them. So I think, sort of note to self, if I'm listening and watching this back, make them 75%, because they bring in a little bit of the blue in behind. So this one here has to be very dark though, because this one is right in front of your light source, so it will be like a super strong silhouette. Whereas this one over here even, but whereas the other ones, they're not in front of the sun, so they don't necessarily need to have that much darker silhouette to them. So we'll just come across into here as well. A couple of darker trees off to the side, and then I'm just really bulking out the colour towards the bottom. Okay, oh, that looks much nicer, doesn't it? Let's just compare that to so that's without. We'll then put the big stamp in there, solid colour, not a lot of depth to them, whereas if we switch that round to those trees, it fits the whole aesthetic a little bit more. So I like that. Oh, whoa, what did oh God, I look away for a couple of minutes. I'm on the Discord, but I really don't know how we work it. She says, very embarrassed. No, loads of people are new to Discord, so it's all good. Milo, I think that's why you like the doodle challenges, isn't it? Because you can create something off of that, but at the same time, you know, you're not doing a tutorial, are you? You're like using your own creativity, which is quite cool. Thanks, Robs. I appreciate it, and Milo as well with the trees and stuff. It's just practice of techniques, learning what does look good and what doesn't look good in terms of, again, what we were just saying there a second ago. What brushes were going to look good and pull off the effect that you want to pull off. Okay, something looks like it's just changed here, and I don't know what has changed. I think maybe this layer... No, see, that layer's fine. Why is that randomly just started changing? It's got the shale brushes running through it, and I don't know why. They're underneath it. Am I high? Like, what's going on? Why did that just... It's at max opacity. I don't know what just happened there. Okay, that's cool. We've got the guide for the waterfall, so that looks nice. We will probably lower that down now. And from memory, I need to try now and replicate the same thing we did from the waterfall tutorial on YouTube. So let's see if I was paying any attention. Let's add in a little bit of blue, first of all, which will give off a nice sort of glow on either side. A nice watery glow. I should probably turn that off for a second, if I'm honest, and try now to focus on getting it done myself. So that's looking good. Got some nice big strong colour in there. Then we'll move to a slightly lighter tone. So this one here. This is like a backdrop for the water to work in. And we're creating that misty look. We're also going to run it all the way down off the edge. And then from memory, I think I can go straight in now with another new layer. We brush in some strokes down. Yeah, see, it's coming back now. We brush in some strokes down. We leave gaps. Gaps always look great. You don't want them to be too repetitive though, Joel, do you? Because you're trying to stop doing that this year. Like that. We will round off the top. So we'll round off the top here, because by doing this, you give yourself a little bit of the white tones here, which will look great in a minute when we go to smudge. So just a few sort of tones here as it makes its way through this little cave thing, whatever it is, maybe a little something like that, and then we will go to the smudge tool. I'll be with you guys in 2 seconds, and we will smudge down, pushing those lines down. We will push them around at the top, push them, whoa, let's push them round and push them down, and run them up as well from the bottom, smudging those lines out, creating some really nice streaky looks in there. And I think, to be honest, I could probably have got away with adding a bit more of a brighter colour in there. That one's looking a little bit too faint. Let me jump straight to it. Bethany, thank you so much for becoming a YouTube supporter. I appreciate you supporting the channel. Got a nice new badge next to your name now. I swear you've had one beside your name before. Yeah, so Rob's, yours has changed now. So yours has gone, oh God, I can't remember the order. Is it 2 months now you've been a supporter on the channel? I could probably find out. I forget the order. I really should remember this stuff, but I forget the order all the time. Let's go to here. Let's hopefully make sure the stream doesn't just start to crash. We'll go to here, memberships. So let's have a look, shall we? Let's see our members. Let's see what's going on. So let's see who's the total highest. Cat is the highest, as well as Dobby as well, at 15 months, and they have their silver badges. We've then got David Kim for 13 months as well, and Marie, Lillian, Donna are the other silver members, and then we have bronze members. Elizabeth is about to become a silver member. Troy is just behind. Our good friend Troy is just behind on 10 months, and then we've got a few 9 months. And then we have the 3 month to 6 month period. So if you are just a new member, you get the J beside, which is just like Bethany's, which is the purple, it's the Joel Create logo. And then the logo changes from that to the orange and yellow one that Rob's has. And then after 3 months, so in your third month, it will change to the green and yellow one. And then after green and yellow, it turns to bronze with some nice stars beside it. And then we move to silver after a year. So 6 months to a year is bronze. 1 year to 2 years is silver. After that, we then have the gold one. And then there's also a brand new tier, which is, I think it's 3 years and above. And it's like a rainbow one. It's like the highest one you can get. So if you see someone with a rainbow one, you know that is the highest one. So let me just triple check that. Yeah. So yeah, appreciate all the support, guys. There's loads of members in here. No doubt thanks to Troy as well, with his gifted memberships as always. I'll leave that as it is for a minute, that's fine. Okay, so I think here I could have maybe gone to white, in fact, and brushed that in. So now what I'm going to try and do is brush in some white in here and repeat them steps, because I think maybe if I repeat them on top of it, it might actually add a bit more character. So I'm thinking we just add in a little bit of white lining there and just roll a few lines over, straight down. Try to avoid that repetition. Some streaks up will look good. I always think a streak up looks quite good because it almost looks like the water hits a rock somewhere, maybe such as like here, and then it is just like being sort of dispersed downwards. So we'll go from here, push this down from the top, a couple of nice random sort of bits of white in here. And then I'm going to try and block off the left hand side with a nice bright sort of white look to it. That one might be a bit too bright and a bit too on its own, so I'm going to go up there again. Yep, that looks better. So that's got a bit more of already a streakiness to it without actually having to do that yet. And then we'll get into streaking this up and down, which nicely disperses. I think maybe I could get away with maybe making the brush a little bit smaller and creating a much more fine look to the water. So then you get that these bits here where they're a little bit more random, which I think look great. I think they just add randomness. I kind of feel like that's like a rule I should try and make. Randomness equals realism, like kind of thing. Like having a bit more of a random look to it will make it look more realistic. It's just a given for me. Like I'm going to push in these from that edge as well, just push that in. And then we'll try and just streak that a little bit more. Let's maybe use this brush to try and break that up a bit more. Overall, that looks quite nice. I quite like that. I quite like how that looks. Let's then go back to the layers over here on the left for the rocks. And then what we could do is like try to introduce some like wet patches on the rocks maybe. So if we zoom in, we could like, I'm using the medium blend brush that I've been using recently. I don't know if that's going to be the one, but we could try and just like make some rocks look like they're a little bit wet on here. So just like a few rocks here that have just got a little bit of water on them, just a little bit of color on them, a little bit over here too. And I can press really firm with this medium blend. It's a great brush. I think the medium blend, oh, we used it in the lighthouse tutorial if you're interested. But yeah, we could maybe introduce some like wet rock over here and just smudge some of this color in. That's looking okay for a minute. Let's try and blend that out a little bit more. We'll be brave with that one and we'll see how that kind of looks. Create some wet rock. Just randomness to those edges, trying to catch the odd little rock. And again, less is more now, so I feel like I can just leave that. I can leave that on that layer. We'll create another new layer and we'll add in some like misty effect. So maybe we go to the soft airbrush this has gone in a completely different direction to how I was envisioning it earlier on. So we're definitely moving it along, but it's got into like a bit of a realism look to it in a way. This doesn't need to be clipped, so I think what I can actually do is maybe move that above. Yeah, that looks nicer. We get into that nice misty look. And I think what we could also do is just grab the smudge tool and maybe something like maybe the dry brush. That's a bit too aggressive. What I'm trying to do there is just use a like maybe even the medium blend. Wait, where's that gone? Yep, there we go. And just smudge to the point where we can like create some like, yeah, little bits of like mist like this, but I don't want it to be too solid, which I think I'm not using the smudge tool, so that would probably be why. Let's go to the smudge tool. Let's go to airbrushing and the medium blend. Make that a bit bigger, and then just smudge that around a little bit, just trying to break it up to create some nice random mistiness to it. It's Bob Ross. Thanks guys, I appreciate this, the love on this one. It's looking nice, it's looking good, it's coming along. Let's try our best now to do the water within a reasonable time, you know, see if I get to bed today. Okay, water wise, what could we do for the water? Well, we kind of need to sort of work on a few different colors first of all, and also remember light source. Light source is coming this way, so it's going to come across here. I think, to be honest, actually, if I go back to this layer here for the waterfall, it's almost a bit too dark. I'm wondering if we jump straight away to a light source at the top as an example light source. So we're going to add like a bit of a glow coming from that sun over here. So like a little bit, maybe not like that, maybe that's a bit too, a little something like that almost, and then change the layer effect to overlay, which I really like to do at the minute. That will brighten up some of the tones. You can see the difference in that. Can you see that? Just brings these last little lighting things always, just to me, just make it look, you know, we go on there and we just to that. I'm really enjoying using the lens flare. I feel like, to be honest with you, it's going to be kind of like a staple of like a few of my tutorials coming up, and something I might just like always integrate in as a piece that I really like the look of. Like, I don't know, it just looks so cool if we change the effect and stuff to something. I mean, color dodge looks crazy. It looks like a sci-fi film, but it looks sick. You get an idea for the light source and how it's just making its way in. Maybe if it wasn't quite so like a blue color and instead was like, if I go to hue saturation here and we just change that to something like a little bit warmer like that, that looks great. That brings in, that's always a nice thing to do. If you've got a really cool design, as in cool as in color temperature, so like a bluey design, using a warm light source will always look sick, because it will bring out some more colors. You've got these like pinks and stuff in there now, and reds, which just look great because they stand right off against the blue colors. Just before we carry on, Sandra, thank you so much for hanging out with us. I appreciate you hanging out, and enjoy the rest of, well, enjoy tomorrow. Obviously today's over, but be sure to come and join the Discord before you go, potentially. Milo's just dropped a link in the chat, but thank you for hanging out with us this evening. Thanks, Troy, I appreciate it. But do you know what I mean? Like, I really love this effect. I just think it looks cool. And when you remove that, we get to a much more flatter, darker design. So just that light source change can really make the difference. So what we'll carry on with the water, which from memory was these colors. We'll carry on with the water. We'll see what we can come up with. And I need to work out kind of how this is going to look, because I feel like that over there would be darker, and that's correct because there's not a lot of light source, but also I need to bear in mind the white sort of glow and stuff from that waterfall. So we'll put in a base colour to start with. We'll grab this lighter tone, we'll brighten up the edge here, and then maybe even just through the water here towards this edge. couple more blue tones in here will look nice. Sort of splash them in for a minute, and then, no pun intended, and then we'll let's grab our painting brush. Let's go to the dry brush. I love this brush for water, and we'll push it sideways. We'll really batter this water over there for a minute, because that's going to be really ripply, and then as it gets further into here, we'll maybe increase the brush size up, create some bigger lines in here, and all of those splashing of all those different colors onto the canvas is going to give you everything you need now to create these nice little ripples of water, like so. That came together quite quickly, kind of thing, you know. What's up, Jay? How you doing? How are you doing? Okay, let's create a new layer. Let's go to this color, I think it is. I need to add a bit more mist and water and a bit more mist and like stuff over here, just to fade out that line where the water edges. You can see it a little bit, and that's fine, but we do want to, I'm going to give a circular motion here for all of this sort of mist. We do want to just leave a little bit of that line, so you get the impression it's there, but just a little bit. And then maybe even change it to this brighter tone, and just scribble in some brighter tones in this area here. That's looking quite nice. It gives a kind of nice ripply look, doesn't it? Yeah, there was no pun intended there, but it definitely came out like a pun. I'm going to leave that. I'm really happy with how that looks. I think those colours look really good together. Now, my concern is, and this is something you should try to do, and this is why I've technically done this design wrong, is you shouldn't focus on an area too heavily first, give it too much love before then leaving items completely undone. What you should try and do is like draw your shapes in, draw your foundation sort of highlights and shadows foundation wise, and then go into more color and detail, but progressively across the whole thing. When you do it like I've just done it, what I've basically kind of done against my will is I've kind of signed up now to the point where that level of detail is now basically required almost across the whole canvas. So like this rock over here has to look good, like it has to fit, so I've got to put some time into it to make it look good. I think what would be really nice on this one, and maybe we'll grab a picture in a minute of like a fisherman or something, but a guy maybe stood here fishing would look great. It wouldn't make too much sense because the fish would be like nowhere near the waterfall, I would imagine. It's too loud and disruptive. So, but yeah, that's one thing to bear in mind. So yeah, one thing I was going to talk about, and I think it's just a good conversation point. So I was saying earlier that this camera you're looking at now is a new Works phone. So it's just a cheaper older iPhone. But I had to separate my personal phone from my Joel Create stuff. So I had to create a bit of separation. That whole conversation of, like, I guess like addiction to, the addiction to your phone and, checking numbers and stuff. It's very common in the space of checking like your YouTube subscriber count. I've basically tried to be honest with myself and say, like, you've got to stop now. Like, it's got too far. You need to separate this from your day-to-day phone and usage, and have a break, create a break between you, a barrier where you are separated from this content so that you can't check it as a frequent as I currently do. It's basically because I'm so hyper fixated on making this work. Sorry, actually I've just saw Rob's is off to bed. So Rob's, I appreciate you hanging out. I've got to get some Aziz. Joel looks absolutely fantastic. We'll catch up tomorrow. Appreciate you, Rob's, hanging out. Great to see you in the chat. But what I was saying there is, create some separation. And me being hyperfixated on making Joel Create a success and Joel Designs as a success, it has, it takes a bit of a toll on me, to be honest with you, of like constantly checking numbers, constantly checking, pointlessly. I mean, you would probably all laugh sometimes at like I beforehand of like literally just refreshing your like YouTube subscriber count constantly and being like, oh, 2 more, and then you refresh again and it's like, oh, no more, and it's like, yeah, Joel, it's been like 10 seconds, mate, since the last time you did it. You know, you're not gonna have, what are you expecting, 2,000 subscribers to fly in? Like, it's just not going to happen. And to refresh it daily like that on that regular basis is just awful. It's too much. It's not good. So I decided to get a second phone for the business, if you want to call it that, the YouTube channel. Everything's on there, like all the YouTube content and all the Instagram and stuff. So there's a nice amount of separation for me between the two worlds, which is good. I already feel the benefit. I already feel a little bit freed from it in a good way. You know, I love checking, and I still do. You know, it's not that I'm no longer now checking to see you've tagged me and stuff or anything like that. The difference is like in those quiet moments where someone's not tagged me in something, I'm now not checking. You know, I'm not purposely just constantly refreshing. I'll check it maybe twice, 3 times a day, something like that, and not be so glued to it. It was becoming a bit of a burden on me a little bit, in a good way, but in a bad way. So I have decided to make a change to that, and I think that is a good change. But I think the conversation of like stuff like that is always one that you've got to have with yourself, because I wouldn't have said I had a problem with like checking it all until I moved it all across onto that phone and realised I was looking at my personal phone going, what do we even use these things for? Like, if you've not got a YouTube channel, what do you do with these things? Like, just like stupid things like that. But yeah, just crazy. But it's great to break up from it. So I'm feeling good. Feeling balanced, as Bethany just said there. Good amount of balance is good for the mind. And like on weekends, for example, a little sort of thing with the YouTube Studio app is you can't use it if you're not on Wi-Fi. So like if I'm out and about on like a weekend with Mrs. Create, you know, I would be detached from it and it would be great, and I'd go home and I'd be like, oh look, a lump sum of like all this information, such as like, you know, new subscribers and all that sort of stuff has come through, and that's great. You get home, you check it, and you're like, that felt nicer, and it was always great. And I would say that to her like on the weekends and be like, do you know what, this is like great on a weekend to have this like not connected to me, and just, you know, be a bit more present. So, and a few of my mates who I was with on the weekend also maybe picked up on it, that I was doing it a bit much. So when I proposed the idea of getting a second phone to them, they didn't batter an eyelid, whereas they would normally say like, what you want about, you don't need a second phone, what you want about. But yeah, now I am. They were on board, so that kind of gave me the inkling that I needed. So yeah, that's just a little topic of conversation for why it's good to take a break. Great advice. Troy says, but how will I get in touch with you on YouTube at 3:30 a.m. on a Wednesday? Exactly. Like, all of my audience is stateside as well, so like in the morning over here, there's no need for me to be checking my phone. Like, you guys are all asleep, majority of you anyway. Like, you guys are pretty much all asleep. I'll see you all when you wake up. Well, I won't, but you know what I mean. You know what I mean? I'm not going to be on your bedside like, good day. Yeah. Joel, I think it's healthy, the decision you made. Separating everything is nice and healthy, yeah, for sure. It can be all-consuming if you're not careful, absolutely. Now you can aimlessly scroll TikTok with the rest of us. Well, I was doing my fair share of that. Yeah. Definitely doing my fair share of that. Should we add some moss to this or just leave it as rocks? Because I'm thinking the lighting, this is something I always try to imagine as well, is like how realistic and like, you know, what's the story of this? Would the lighting come across here very often into this space? I don't know how it would would this get anything on here? So maybe I'll just go in and maybe add some green on there, but just like a little bit towards the top maybe. So let's do that. Let's go in here, maybe add in, let's go in with the other leatherwood brush, this one. So this one's basically got a scatter effect on it. That's the only difference. So just a little bit of scatter on there is just nice, because it's that randomness you need sometimes to pull off without having to think about it too much. I'm just going to go straight in with, was it this colour or was it this colour? This one. Then this one on top. Just a bit of green on here. Might look quite nice. Just some little bits of vegetation. I'll break them up in a second. I think they do look good, but I think they just need breaking up. Maybe I'll alpha lock it. Go in with the base colour for that area and just break that up. But like I said, it doesn't change anything, guys. Like, I'm not going to be like barely on Instagram or anything like that. Still there, but just trying to be a bit more balanced with that, making sure that it's not becoming too much of a demand on me. Because truthfully, the decision to do the the Joel designs alongside Joel Create is starting to make me realise how much I've signed up to, in a good way, but like, I will make it work. They're not the type of person I am to make it not work. But yeah, it's definitely already becoming quite obvious that is going to be quite a lot of quite intense on me, on workload wise. What has just happened here? Oh, that is just there, so maybe I'll go in there with the leatherwood and just knock that down a little bit. But yeah, Joel Designs is still flying. I like to, I think that's what it is. I think recently that has all come together really well, the Joel Designs channel. So if you're not already subscribed, please head over to Joel Designs on YouTube and subscribe. That'll help me grow a lot quicker. But yeah, that's flying. So I think that's where it sort of came in a little bit, where I could, see myself being very hyper fixated on that, because it's like a new baby, a new baby for me to keep nurturing, make sure it does well. I'm thinking here, I need to maybe go in with a dark tone, just around the base of this, just a little bit around here, just a little bit of extra darkness in these areas. I'll smudge it in a second, put some extra bits there and just smudge them across. Whoa. That is not the right brush. Let's go to artistic. No, let's go to painting. Dry brush. Break that up, but just giving a bit of a shadow in behind here. Should tie that into the water a bit more. That's nice. Nah, I'd want a Scottish accent on the side of the bed. You love that Scottish accent. Ellen says, would kind of weird me out to see you stood over my bed, not gonna lie. Yeah, I think most people would be a bit weirded out by that. Man in the raincoat looking at the waterfall. I could do that, but I feel like he's just getting about a little bit, isn't he? The guy with the stamp for that. Should we see what it looks like? We had this discussion, didn't we, last week, where he looked a bit miserable, and we maybe had to pull him back from the edge. Where is that stamp? So that's too big, of course. Let's uniform him down. If by uniforming him to a certain size, we can make him, he could be right down there at the waterfall, he could be up here, but he could also be here on the side, on this rock, looking over. The problem with that is I feel like it takes away a little bit from he's either got to be in front of the waterfall here, or he's got to be like over here on the right. But then again, I feel like that ruins that look. So maybe we just get rid of him. See you later. Oh, do you know what would look really nice? That's a really good idea. We'll go up to the top. Troy, again, dude, another 10 gifted in the same stream. Dude, I appreciate you so much. Looking after everybody in the chat. Will they all go out though? That's the question. I mean, they look like they're all about to go out. Sorry as well. Sorry, I've missed so much in that chat because I was waffling. I've just realised I missed someone as well. Checking to sure everything's okay, running well. Ryan, appreciate you, mate. Thank you for dropping into the chat. Thank you for the 2-year celebration. Milo, thank you for sharing the link. And Troy, again, massive thank you to you sharing 10 gifted memberships again with the community. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, they all went out, Troy. That's great. There was Grey creeping in. Troy, you are a hero, my friend. You are a hero. Look at all those new members flying in. What I was thinking is we go up to here, and maybe this could look really good, or just I'll just lie to you. Let's go to the deer, and I need a particular stance of a deer. Maybe deer 2. It needs to be like upwards, looking quite like it's looking down on us. Oh, deer 39 could do it. Let's go deer 39. Whoa. Grab the cursor, scale it down, and just move this deer just up and onto here maybe. Just like, that's maybe a bit too big, but if we scaled that down and then added like a bit of a glow to it kind of thing, it could look like it has like a really nice bit of that lighting in behind it. And got a little bit of lighting, just really sort of really diffuse it on the sides, making it look like that lighting is really, we're kind of struggling as the person to kind of work it out, but almost like a magical deer up there by the looks of it at the minute. Put that there, you know, just like the silhouette, you can see the lighting around it coming around. That looks quite cool. John, basically you were just John Plays and Lawrence, you were gifted a membership by Troy, whether or not you were in the stream or not. Sometimes they're delivered to people that are not currently in the stream but support the channel when I'm on stream, so as in like you've been in the chat before, so kind of thing. So yeah, almost like a bit of a Patronus this, isn't it, in the background there, just a little bit. If we lowered that down a little bit, I think that looks quite nice up there. We'll see how it finally looks, but that is an idea. I'll even keep the layers just in case. And then we need to do this rock here at the front, so I need to do all that again. Let's do this. So this is what I mean. You don't want to sign yourself up to too much sometimes. We'll see how it works. Yes, that's the thing. It does draw focus. That's a good thing. That's good that you said that. That's exactly what you should try to do. I tried to say it in tutorials recently, is where do you want the user to look? Do you want them to look at the lens flare? Do you want them to look at the light source? Do you want them to look at the waterfall? With this particular design, there isn't necessarily a purposeful thing in it. There's not like a subject. The waterfall obviously looks very sort of pretty and looks really nice, but there's no massive thing that sort of is the main focal point. So a little something like that up there would look quite nice. This leatherwood brush as well, you kind of want to create like random streaks at different angles, and you will easily pull off the impression of like a rocky surface like this. We'll give everything a bit more of a light coat so we can get a few extra little splashes of colour in here, and then we'll go to the base colour and we will break that up. Let's go a bit smaller, maybe about 4%. Try to get some more detail in the rocks at this level, so by making the brush a bit smaller, different angles here, I can create some nice really eroded rock in here. And towards the bottom right, I kind of want to, at the same time, I want you to know that that's rock, but I don't want that to be the focus. We kind of want the user to look past it. Let me zoom out. Look past it. We want them to look past it. We don't want them to be focused on here. There's nothing here of interest. If anything, I might not even put like some moss or anything on this one. We'll just leave it as it is. Maybe the lightest tone of green that's that is just going to give the impression of a bit of greenery on here, but nothing too much. Again, we want to tell the user where to look, and you never want them to look at your foreground, because your foreground is just you know, it's a what's the word I'm looking for? You know, someone who's playing like a second role to the main act. So we'll go in with a little something like this, and then we'll grab the eraser. Am I on a separate layer? I am, so I can just hack away into that with a really, really small brush of the leatherwood here, just leaving bits of green on there. I think I'll have to go against what I said a little bit, and I will have to add in a brighter tone on top, because I think it's just ever so slightly too boring. Just ever so slightly too boring. We won't go to that extreme of those other highlights, but we will add in just a little bit of highlight on here towards the top edge. I think maybe this layer could even be like unclipped, just so I can get a little bit of this randomness that's making its way beyond the rock shape. So I'll erase some of this for a second. I can see you guys moving in the chat in the corner of my eye, and I will be with you in just 2 seconds. Let's see what we can just do here for a second. Create some nice big areas of green. And then a couple of splashes down here of green as well. Just a couple, and then grab the eraser. Or do we go in with like a darker green, just to break them up, rather than just destroy them? Just break them up with the darker colour. Okay, let me catch up where we're looking. I like to do it so that away from the waterfall. How do I keep getting memberships? If you're active, if you're active in the chat at all from time to time, it recognises your activity levels and you are prioritised for gifted memberships. One of the supporters doesn't like the grey, so they gifted a membership. I haven't been drawing because there's something wrong with my Apple Pencil. Oh, damn. Yeah, Troy's the problem. That is the problem, but he's a good problem. I like the guy in front to the raincoat. Man is a staple now. Thanks, Milo. I appreciate that. I think down here we could really break that down a lot more. But I think the more I see this down here, the more I'm like, do I add a little bit? Do I just add a little bit? I think Bob would, you know. So maybe I should as well. Just a little few flakes of the white stuff. I know Bob Ross wasn't my generation, and truly, like, I didn't really know about him too much until like doing all of this stuff and researching paintings and stuff and all that kind of stuff. But God, I said a lot of stuff there, but he was truly unreal. Doing all of that in half an hour on a TV show is crazy. Like, you've given me an hour and a half and I've done this, and he was using physical art as well, so it's fantastic. So cool. Let's just completely abandon everything I just said. We'll go in here, we'll add in some. This here though, look at the difference immediately. Look at that, and then look at that. That rock with that little bit of extra white tone on it, that's the one. Just a little bit of extra rock colour, just a nice little bit of extra brighter tone on there. Pulls it together really nicely. Maybe a couple of shards of this just through here. That's really nice. Okay, well, this took a massively different direction to what I was intending on doing. So yeah, that's definitely gone mad. Okay, Bethany raises a good question, and I will answer it completely honestly. The Cooper series, we did the work for Cooper back in like November to get it revitalized. It was planned to be the end of January tutorial for YouTube. The only thing that happened was I received a sponsorship deal for a video, and so I had to postpone Cooper because I had to do a sponsored video. It's great for me to be recognised by a company to want to do a sponsored video. That is out next Friday on YouTube. So as I said to you guys last week, please just give as much love in that chat as you can, in the comments. I know sometimes I ask you to drop comments on them, but this one would really mean it if you could. You know, the design looks good, product looks great, kind of thing. You know, they'll appreciate that. I'll appreciate it. But yeah, it ties into art, the product. You'll see it all next week anyway. But yeah, so it's a good opportunity for me, and I had to take it. So I had to postpone. I had to postpone Cooper. Cooper is coming around. My problem is with Cooper is I probably, if I'm honest, have probably lost a bit of love for that kind of series, but I feel like I want to just be doing other stuff. But I know that Cooper gets a lot of love in the series, so I know I've probably got to do it. And I think, to be honest with you, if I posted a tutorial with Cooper, I can imagine that it would get a ton of views because people will want to do it again because loads of people have asked about it. So it's kind of like, well, I've got to do it. I've just got to do it. So I'll probably do it early February. So Cooper is not dead. Cooper is still fine. It's just learning how to take Cooper in a different direction. And if I'm honest, I also need to open my own mind a little bit because, okay, just take a mental image of this design, yeah? The intricacy, the levels of detail, blah, blah, blah. Let me just flick this around and we'll go to the Cooper series because it's probably a good, no transition there. No, software's just given up on me. If I click on that again. Oh, now we get a transition. If we change out a second and we'll go to the Cooper series. Did I make a separate series for it? I think I did. It's going to here. It's going to here. Okay. I can show you this whole file. It's fine. So the Cooper series, one thing that happened with it is, to be honest with you, I was also still learning my own style. I was learning my own craft. You know, like I said at the very beginning of this, like I feel like it's been quite nice because I do feel like I've evolved with my skill set in the last like 6 months especially. But like Cooper, some of the designs got a little bit too repetitive, and also I wasn't pushing them in different directions. Like this one looks nice, it's cool. It's a bit bland at the top, but it's cool. I like it. The stamp looks great. Then we moved to this one, very classic Joel Create kind of tutorial. Looks cool. We've got the backlit sort of planet there. Looks cool. Made our way up. We used a different brush for the rocks and stuff. And then we get to this part, and this is where the tutorial kind of stops, doesn't it? This was the last one. And like at this point, I feel like I could now take Cooper in a direction where we could do some really cool stuff with, you know, lighting and textures and little things like that. So that looks really weird on the camera there. It doesn't look as murky as that, but yeah, there's lots of stuff we can do. I had an idea of just doing like Cooper walking through the desert there between the columns, but boring tutorial. Didn't even look like I wanted it to anyway. But Cooper is not dead. All the groundwork has been done for the new pages. The new pages, what will happen is you will download a new page for Cooper. You can download previous ones. This is page 1. And first image is what I will call, and I'm calling a color me. So you can color in this image. This isn't going to be part of the tutorial, but basically what will happen is each page of the comic will have a illustration that is already done and you can color it in, do what you want, whatever, and then it will have a space for the tutorial for that page. So some pages are going to look slightly different, like page 2, this is just a coloring, that's all it is. Page 3 is 2 tutorials on the same page, but that's only because I'm trying to keep the story moving with the previous tutorials we've already done. Then we move to page 4, that is also 2 tutorials, and then page 5 is the new one, where sometimes this is just a mock-up of what I was thinking. Sometimes there may be 2 images at the top that you colour in, and then the tutorial. So the tutorial will always be the main part of the page, but then there'll be colouring images to go alongside it. So yeah, Cooper's not dead, I promise you. I need to probably sit down for a while and maybe even like with Mrs. Create and just try to brainstorm some ideas to take Cooper. I have said, and this is also something that plays on my mind with the whole series, is I don't draw people. That's just not my style. Drawing people is a skill and a craft in itself. And I've said this last time, and I'll just kind of briefly talk about it, is the concept of drawing people. I do not want to take Cooper's helmet off. Cooper, I want to be a stamp series. You just stamp him on, you colour him in to match with lighting and stuff, and we move on. I'm not having you draw astronauts every week, well, not every week, every tutorial. Calm down. Every tutorial. I don't want that. It's not my style. I don't want to take his helmet off. I don't want to be drawing faces. I just don't want to do that. I don't want to do something that I can't provide content to you guys that I'm happy with and confident in, that I can provide you with something that looks cool. You know, I don't think I could draw a face good enough. Well, maybe I could. I don't know. But to draw a face good enough that would mean that you guys would be like, oh, that looks cool. I want to learn from Joel. Because I don't feel confident enough by doing that myself to then be able to teach that as well, if that makes sense. You know, I would need to put the time into the craft first to understand it, you know, composition of the face, the bone structure, angles of lighting, how that would affect certain things, and that again is its own craft. So yeah, that's kind of where the Cooper series, is. So Cooper probably won't take his helmet off, if ever. So yeah, that's kind of where we are with Cooper. Anyway, let's get back to here. This is where we are. Sorry, need to grab those colourings. Jay, yeah, they're not available just yet, but they will be when the Cooper series gets revived. I think, like, you know, if we think about it from like the story point of view, like if I was actually done with the Cooper series, if it was the end and he was walking away, you know, you could do something really cool where like he's got his back to us looking at him, holding the helmet under his arm, maybe walking back to his family or something, back on Earth, and we just see the silhouette, just the back of his head, you know, and then we're like, bugger, like he took his helmet off and we never got to see it. That kind of thing is cool. That's what I mean. That's how I envision like the whole thing. Like I need to create this storyline and a whole massive arc of where it can go. I'm talking MCU style stuff, you know, big stuff. So we need to try and like, you know, I'm happy creating like monsters that would be like his sidekicks or something. You know, if we think about like Guardians of the Galaxy kind of stuff in the Marvel series, you know, he could have a sidekick that we have a face to, but it's a monster of some sort, or it's just a creature. Yeah, that's cool. Or we have someone that is a sort of somewhat human kind of aesthetic, but because it's an alien, we can get away with making the nose look a bit janky or the eyes look a bit stupid, you know, something like that. So yeah, it's like just like lots of things like that is where I want to take the Cooper series. Excuse me. So, then we have a drink. That's where Cooper is anyway. Exactly, like Helen said, we could put Groot in there. How cool would that be? Like a Groot style thing. You know, hell, we could try our best to actually, like, Cooper could be walking through the woods and see I cannot remember the name for the life of me, so I apologise for my lack of knowledge. It's not my series that I watch, but could see baby Yoda. Calm down. Is it Grogu or Grogu, something like that? You know, walking through the woods, and then we could see a scene of Cooper looking down on like a alien from any series, Grogu. You know, how cool would that be? And then we like, you know, and then in another episode he's, I don't know, walking through some sort of village scene, you know, and he is, you know, I don't know, walking, just literally just walking past. It could be walking past like Drax or something, or Gamora, you know, something like that. You know, we could do some real cool stuff with it. So yeah, that is that's what I've got to do. I've got to think of the series and put some ideas together of where it can go. Excuse me. So let's get back to this, because this is what we're doing, aren't we? Cross-universe stuff, exactly. But the thing is, it's great, and I appreciate that you guys like Cooper, because Cooper was always something I felt like I could pull off that nobody else has yet in this space. Is a series of tutorials on Procreate that are based around something. So yeah, it's cool that you like it, and I appreciate that you do like it. I really do. So let's try and get this last little bit done, where I think I need to add the lens flare in, of course. Oh, bang on position there. But then change some of the hues to it. So I think it's like overlay, it was, and change the overlay to a hue saturation. And I really liked it when we made it like up here. It was nice and warm. Nice and warm. Maybe even increase that saturation up a little bit. Have like a nice red look to it. Maybe slightly orange if we go down this end. So I don't know what we did last time, but that does look quite nice like that. I do like that. What's up, Funky? How are you doing? How is it going? Lindsay, total subject change, but will we get a spring or autumn cabin painting update? Ooh. Oh, an autumn one would look nice, wouldn't it? So we've done... Okay, let's go off topic a second, and let's run with that. That's a good conversation point. We'll come back to this again in a minute. Let's leave this. Let's go take a look at the cabin in the woods stuff. Also, I need to show you in a minute the comparison between the one that we've just done of that waterfall and the one I did before, because the level of growth is crazy. Again, we'll talk about that in just a second. So let's follow on with Lindsay's question. So I can show you these ones here because you've seen all of these. That's fine. Can't have you seeing too much, can we? Okay, so the first one we had was this beauty, which is the very first cabin in the woods. Now, it's kind of up to us what we determine this is. Do we determine that it's spring, or do we determine that it's summer? I would say... I don't know. If we were to call it spring, or would we? What I'm thinking is like, the alternative is like, how can I make this look a little bit different? I wouldn't say it's autumnal, because I think autumnal wise would mean that I would have some really nice warm colour leaves on the floor. I think the light source definitely at the top though, Bethany, does give that impression that it is kind of autumnal, because it does make these a little bit warmer, but that is just simply the light coming through. I would say it's a bit dark for a start without that light source, but I reckon that could be classed as maybe spring. And if I was to make that a summer vibe, we could have like flowers in here, but I'm struggling to work out what, you know, for example, like autumn, that's probably a really easy one to do, in a sense that like the grass will start to die a little bit, the leaves maybe. I would actually probably need to research potentially what this tree kind of represents in the real world and see how that ages. I don't want to just change the colours to green, orange and reds and stuff, because I don't even think that type of tree does that. I think it just wilts and falls to the ground. So I'll have a look. It's definitely a good question. I think summer wise is probably definitely more achievable in the fact that it would look very much the same, but we would create, you know, we would add some nice flowers, or maybe we just progress the design in a way that's a bit different. Maybe I don't know what we do. What could we do? We could draw some kids playing down in the stream or near the stream. We could have like the family boat, I don't know, like on a trailer beside the house. What else could we do? We could have some cars maybe parked up outside on this big drive. We could have a Halloween version. Obviously, we're not going to do that now, but we could have a Halloween version. Everything's really dark. Really dark. Almost black and white. Bed lights on again. And then like some silhouettes of some like monsters and stuff. And yeah, that sounds, see, that's cool, because I can see how that would then be a little bit different. My struggle with like making this like, yeah, pumpkins outside the house and stuff, and you know, cobwebs, like if we make it look like they decorated and stuff, kind of thing would look cool. We could have a pumpkin down here, pumpkin at the bottom of this tree, a couple on the porch, which would give off a nice lighting effect. Oh, what's happening with the music? I need to make sure that has not run off into... Oh, it's fine. Yeah, Halloween one seems pretty good. Summer, I'll think about it, see what we can change. Autumn, I'll look into what the types of trees and basically see if there's a change there. But the winter one made perfect sense, didn't it? Because it's just like well, we can just chuck snow on everything basically. Do you know what? I'm so happy with that little series. Very happy with that. Right, let's flick this back around a second, and I'm going to go back to the one we were just working on. We'll get that finished, and then I want to show you the progression between the two. And this is what I'm talking about in terms of personal sort of growth with a style. So let's clear that layer. I'm going to go for a nice warm colour. Oh, we didn't add the rainbow in yet. Oh, we'll add that in. Lens flare. That's too yellow. That's a bit too orange. That's lovely. That's nice. And then maybe we grab that glow and whoa, we alpha lock that layer and we fill it in with that warmer tone. That looks nice. But I think that could look a little bit nicer. I think that could be a slightly different colour. Oh, see, that pinky purpley kind of colour looks nice, but if we make it go the other way towards the yellow, it kind of ties in a bit more. I think a little bit of like, I could go to the pinky magenta side of things, or I can go to the yellowy side. We can saturate that a bit more, maybe. Yeah. Okay, we'll do something like that. I think that looks really cool. Yeah, I'm not even talking to any of you, am I? Brighter greens, more white, exactly. Barbecue, picnic stuff, or summer. That's a good idea. White lighting effect, bright summer lights. Absolutely. Creepy cabin in the woods, with Halloween one. Pumpkins. Lindsay says, thank you, Joel. I thought I would just love to revisit it. Absolutely. Or maybe we'll create a new one where I can do a better sort of layout that would better suit that kind of thing, where we have things that are in there that can age. So like a certain type of tree would look really cool that can go through the colours of seasons. The rainbow's still got to be done. Yes, we've missed the rainbow. I've not done that yet. So this is going to like start to get progressively a bit crazy. What's up, Alturas? How are you doing? Good to see you. Okay, cool. That glow looks nice. That looks cool like that. Let's leave that in there. Let's just see what our little deer look like on the top. To be honest, based on the fact that we're going to add a rainbow. Okay. We're done. Apparently we're done. Hang on a second. What are you doing? I don't think it's liking it, and I don't know why. Marco, I'll be with you in 2 seconds, my friend. My camera has decided to stop working. Great success. Let me just answer that then before I carry on. What trees is in the original? I actually don't know. I don't know the types of trees that are in there, so I'm not actually too sure, to be honest with you. And Marco, Joel, I just discovered you, but loved your tutorial in the Japanese temple. 111. Can you do more tutorials like that one? Sort of more realistic looking. What do you mean by realistic? You mean realistic in terms of like that realistic painting look, you mean? Because if you are, there'll be a new one on Patreon in a very similar style next month. It's my Valentine's design. Why are you doing this? Why have you stopped just randomly working? What, now you're working again? Okay, cool. That is a bit off angle. I apologise. We'll just leave it as it is. It's working. So yes, what I was saying is there is a new painting design similar to that on Patreon for Valentine's Day next month. So that'll be out literally on the 14th, I think it is, because Valentine's Day is on the Tuesday, which is when I release my Patreon tutorials. What I was saying is that is too much now. If you were to leave that exactly as it is, maybe, but we're going to add that little rainbow into the waterfall section, so we'll see how that kind of looks. What we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and how are we going to do this? I did this last time. I think maybe I just like created random loose kind of arcs, so maybe we just, yeah, a little something like that maybe. Yes, so sorry, that kind of painting aesthetic will be out next month on Patreon. I'll probably do a couple more in that kind of style. It did go down really well. I didn't think it would, truthfully. I didn't think it was going to do that well, but it did. So I was quite happy with it, and it made me realise that, you know, people are open to that particular kind of style of design, which is nice. Gives a nice change for me. Gives me nice options that I can play with. So at the minute, this is obviously looking quite vibrant, etc. I'm going to change, I think it was down to exclusion maybe. That doesn't look right. Was it meant to be above? It is above all that stuff, so I don't know why it's looking like that. Let's move that across for a second. Let's see what it was. Maybe hue. Hue looks quite nice. Basically, what we're trying to do here is we don't want a really vibrant look to it. I also don't want it to look like that, to be honest. I want it to be a bit more maybe gauge and blurred. That's better. Like it's just meant to give off that misty water look. To be honest, I think it's too much. I think it looks, we've got too much going on with the light sources. It's cool. It's a nice look. It's different. Maybe like this into here, maybe bigger and across the waterfall. What do you think? Let me catch up while you guys maybe take a look at that. Marco, Joe, have plenty of great tutorials. Marco, there is also, by the way, another sort of loose Chinese-Japanese kind of arch design that I've done previously. It's right at the end of the video. I couldn't tell you what number it is anymore. It's like a white design with a red sun and an arch and a mountain. So maybe check that one out. That one is on channel. I couldn't tell you what number it is off the top of my head, I'm afraid. What did Funky say? Can I just share with you all? I passed my coding course, plus had a scan and had the all clear from cancer. Oh, that's awesome. Today has been ace. Oh, Funky, that is awesome. I didn't know you were going through that, so that is fantastic news. Unfortunately, my flipping stream deck doesn't work anymore, so I can't press it and give you a round of applause, but congratulations to you. What a good day that is. Yeah, I think the rainbow's too much. I really do. Even if it was a bit smaller and slightly off to the side, and maybe even a lower opacity again, you could drop it down to there and it's okay, but it's conflicting with the light source. I just don't think it's the right one. I think this is the correct light source to be adding in. Even potentially, like, if I set this to normal a second, also that looks absolutely sick like that. Sometimes you can get away with that extra version of it. I only meant to duplicate it so I could change it to normal and grab the color, and then we'll create another new layer, and we'll go to lens flare bokeh lights. That's nice. Rotate that, move that over to this edge. Do you know what? I'm willing to leave that exactly as it is. Now, before I do, I'm just going to flip this round. I'm just going to grab the original and show you the difference in progression. I think this is really interesting and something maybe you can do in your own work potentially by revisiting a design that you've done before and seeing the difference in your skill set with everything you've learned. So I'm going to go ahead and switch that back. Let's go ahead and undo that. So this is today's design. Lots of detail. Hang on, actually, scrap that. Before I carry on, I want to catch up with what Kiki's saying there in the chat. So I was noting 2015 with breast cancer in remission now. You're all the best. Listen, Kiki, I'm so glad that you are healthy and good, and of course passing your coding test as well on the same day is awesome. But if you ever need to chat about anything, you can always message me if you need something. But yes, sorry, I was saying, so this has got a lot of detail in that sort of moss look. We've got like really small brushes in here, creating some nice detail. We progress and scale up the rocks so that they get like big here, so that they are different to that. You've got a nice amount of scale. We've done the trees manually ourselves, and if we take a look at that one, for example, and then I think if I undo that, that's the one that we started with today. That was the one that we started at the beginning of today with. And if I just redo that and undo that and then redo that and undo that, the difference is crazy. But this is what I'm talking about, is personal progression. Like, I drew this and I think it says March. It was March 15th last year, live on stream, and I was going for that look of that sort of very loose painting, but then redoing it, coming back to the design almost a year later with skill sets that I have progressed and learnt as we've gone on, and just little things, understanding of how things should work. I think you can see like your own improvement by if you did the same, you know, duplicate a design that you did ages ago, strip it down to its bare minimum shapes, and try and, you know, do exactly the same thing. Try and just see what you've learned from any tutor or in your own time or whatever it may be, just to see that change in your own work and the things that you've picked up. I'm very happy with how that looks. The water maybe you could do with the odd little bit of white in it, but I think the fact that it's hidden behind the light source, I think it actually does kind of work, that it's a little bit duller and a little bit darker. And little things that I've learned, like progressively, you can see how much darker, there's a lot more contrast in this as there is to here, because there's a bit of mist on here anyway. But the greys, your greys and colours should always get further, the further you go back, the less saturated and the lighter they should get, and the things closer to you should be nice and dark. That gives you a good idea for oh hang on, I think my screen's changing. That gives you a good idea there for depth. Come on, where's the other one? But this is, okay, so this is another really good example of what I was talking about earlier. I never used to like drawing trees too much. Again, when I'm doing designs like this back in the day, it was use the tree stamp brush, it would save you a boatload of time, you don't need to do it. Whereas now, I'm happy to do trees, and so I've done them myself. That's a perfect example. We've got these trees in the background here, compared to those ones using the stamp brush. So, you know, that's something that you can do, again, like lots of small things progressively over time that you can do. And then when you combine them all together, all the things that you've learned, and combine them all in, you can bring all your skills, really make a difference. This waterfall, to be honest, hasn't really changed much. The process is pretty much exactly the same, except the only thing is I know how to layer up the colours a little bit better now to better pull off the same effect. So like those trees there, loads more depth to them, and also some nice leading lines in towards our light source. Leave a gap. We don't need to add a tree in that gap. We'll just leave it. So yeah, I like the trees. I think they look cool. But that's just one thing that you can do, you know, progressively over a year. Well, I'll start doing my own trees now. I'll start doing my own rocks now. And then eventually you can tie it all together. The clouds in the background, what do they look like? I don't even remember. So very similar. Very, very similar. But learning to get rid of more. Less is more in that aspect. Thank you, Jay. I appreciate you saying you're loving the painting, and Helen as well for the love on the design. Amazing light on that painting. I love it. Troy says, I remember starting digital, and I guess about a year ago discovering Joel. Then I have learned a lot. Exactly. A year flies by, but the amount you learn in that is quite a lot. Does night mode really help you, Joel? I never use it. There's science apparently behind it, that if your screen goes a little bit more orange at night, then you know it's better for you. My iPad is the last thing I see before I shut my eyes. I always put a YouTube video on my bedside. I've got my iPad there. I'll be watching a video with my headphones in, and yeah, just nod off basically, and then end up having to wake up at like 2 o'clock in the morning or something and just turn my iPad off, take my headphone out before it gets wriggled in the bed and ends up in a crevice somewhere. But yeah, I can't believe it's been 2 years already. Congrats on that, Joel. Appreciate it, Jay. Yeah, it's crazy. 2 years. If you'd have told me I was going to stick at it for 2 years, I probably would have been like, nah, you're wrong. But it's when you I think I was always thinking about a 5-year plan of how it would work out in 5 years' time and where I want to be in 5 years with it. And to think I'm already 2 into that, it's pretty nuts. Oh, the music stopped. Sorry. Has it stopped? No, there we go. Yeah, so 2 years into like a 5-year plan. That's pretty good. And I've not missed a week other than when I had COVID and we did the special guest. So technically there's been a tutorial every Friday. So we'll take it. I'll take it. And now with the second channel as well. Jesus. Joel Designs is really interesting as well. Let me just bring up Infinite Painter, because I think, again, this is like another way of seeing your progress. If we go into the YouTube tutorials, this one looks very different to the last one I did, in a sense that we've got this little glow at the bottom and stuff. But also the one that I just did, which is this one. Why has that gone like that? Okay, that was terrifying. This one arguably looks better than the first time I did it. The light rays look better in this one than they did. The camera's making it look a little bit, again, not quite as contrasty as I always say, but yeah, this one looks better than the first time I did it, and this looks a bit too bright up here. But that was nice to do, because it was nice to see progression in that as well. So that one's on Joel Designs as well. These are all available on Joel Designs if you want to use Infinite Painter. Then we'll move across. I'm glad I stuck with it funky as well. I'm glad I have. But also it flies by. It absolutely flies by. Like, once it becomes part of your routine, it just flies by. It just becomes like any other thing that you do, but it's just like a huge part of your week. I was talking to Mrs. Crate about it, and like, Joel Crate's probably been one of the best things that's ever happened to me, in a sense of like, for my own not mental. I hate using the word mental for this. It kind of has like, anyway, whatever. But for my own like, I guess for my own mental state. But it, like, the last 2 years have helped me, like, because I'm so busy and distracted with this all the time. I'm not that irritable younger person anymore, to like, even more so, let's say, than like 5 years ago. Like, it's helped me, you know, I've got huge focus, I've got a goal, you know. One day when me and Mrs. Crate want to have a little baby create, you know, maybe this will support us enough alongside my day job that Mrs. Crate doesn't have to work, you know, little things like that like, I'm working towards my future at the same time as I get to paint and I get to draw and I get to chill out with you guys on a Wednesday, and everything else in between, you know, sponsored video coming up next Friday, interviewed on that podcast last year, the special guest series, like all these cool things that we get to do, testing out products and stuff, but it's like, it's all building towards that one thing at the end kind of thing. So yeah, I nearly swore. It's cool. It's just mad. But yeah, it's like having some bit focus, and then like that tied alongside, let's say, like the gym helps me physically become more exhausted, and then this helps me mentally be exhausted to the point where I'm not like irritable, you know. I always had this like creativity. I needed to be doing something. I've always been like it since I was a kid, you know. I just felt like I just needed to do something on the computer and create something, or on Photoshop, or whatever it may be. But now I get to do it in this form, and it's great fun, and build this bloody awesome community as well. Again, I nearly swore, but it's bloody cool. Also, to the Americans or anybody else, that probably sounds ridiculously British, doesn't it, to say bloody? Definitely part of self-care, Beth. For sure. Exactly. So with Funky now, you're doing your course and it's now done. You've got the time to do it and focus on it, and it just replaces that thing that you want to be doing, your thing that you want to progress forward with. Baby great. Drawing definitely helps my anxiety, helps me focus and relax. Exactly. And like, art's an escape for so many people. It's awesome. Drawing helped me become a better person, give me a beautiful community of friends. Exactly. Lindsay says, it is funky. I'm a huge overthinker and a worrier, but drawing is the only time my mind shuts down. Exactly. It's great. I say bloody all the time, as I think it does not carry the weight of meaning it does in Europe. It doesn't really, to be honest with you, like, mean anything in, like, I don't know. I think there's only one way, and I can hear my granddad. He's from up north in the UK, so he's got a northern accent. And if he was, I can hear him in my mind maybe being a bit irate and being like, "What the?" and like talking through his teeth. "The bloody hell are you doing?" Like, bloody hell. That's it. That's always the one, and you're like, Jesus, what's happening? You left the tap running or something like. But down here, it's just the same. Being an artist is bloody awesome. But it's the editing of the videos. Like, that's the one bit of this whole thing that just drives me a bit nuts. I wish I could just like pass it off to like Mrs. Create or someone to go and do it, and I just draw. I just hit the record button, draw, and that's it. That's my part done. That'd be bloody awesome. Yeah, art's crazy. It's crazy the difference it can make. Like, my mum, she had a bit of a struggling time like a couple of years ago with like her mental state and stuff, and like she's continuing. I've said this loads of times. She continues to colour. Like, she likes to do like adult colouring books where you can just get a nice decent set of pencils, and colour them in, and like nice amount of shading and texture and stuff, and they look great. But like, that's her little random escape, which is cool. I would miss the control. If I watched a video back and saw, that something had been left in, I'd be like furious at the same time. But it also doesn't really matter. I probably have, and I've probably never watched it back, where I've probably missed me saying. So what I'll do is I'll be drawing, and if I go down a tangent, I'll go, "Joel, scrap that," and I have to say my own name so that when I'm editing, and if I've like drifted away mentally and I've gone on my phone or something, I'll hear myself call myself out and say, "Delete that," like, and I'll go, "What?" Okay, yeah, sorry, Joel. I'll get straight to it, Joel, and just remove it. Or I'll keep making mistakes. Like a recording I've just done, it just wasn't going right, and I'm like, "What the F is going on?" Like, and just say to myself, and I think, God, if you leave that in the video, mate, the whole thing is like done with like keeping a completely clean slate of videos. Like, what the F are you doing? Like, I'd love to see bloopers. Maybe I should do bloopers. I've got all the footage. It just means going back through like flipping hundreds of videos now and just finding them. Maybe I should just find them and make snippets of them and take that out. Yeah, see, Bethany, that's me thinking ahead. That's me knowing that when I go to edit the video, I'm going to be distracted. So rather than I'm just completely aware that I'll be like that. So I'll just be like, I have to say my own name there to make sure I'm talking to myself so that it happens. Or I'll be like, right, Joel, scrap all of that part about blah, blah, blah. We're going to redo it from this point here. And I'll go, aye. And go from there. Yeah, that clip about the boulder. Has anybody else seen that yet? The boulder snippet in the aerial beach view video. I was really anxious about leaving that in because I didn't want to get like a copyright strike or anything. But yeah, I just thought I'll test the water and see who sees it and who doesn't. This week's YouTube tutorial is that neon design. I was kind of hoping Jess would have been in the live stream today because she's asked for this months ago and I never got around to doing it until now. So hopefully maybe she sees this back and knows. But yes, there is a design that she asked for ages ago and she's not seen it yet, I don't think. excuse me, I need to update these images from Patreon. This is stupid. I've left that for so long and not updated them. Some of these older tutorials cycling around. I've just not gone in there and filled in the folder that of all the designs. It looked great. Like, everybody smashed that bird's eye beach. I think it's really cool because it's a different perspective that we don't normally see. I'm usually creating something like this that's a little bit different, but the perspective's kind of cool. You get a little bit of the beach, you get a little bit of trees, you get a little bit of rock, obviously, and the water. And if you break it down, it's just like splitting the design into quarters and doing it like that. Yeah, I always keep these designs here just in case anybody's wanting to join my Patreon. These are all designs that you can grab. So if somebody said to me now, where's that balloon dog tutorial? I'm like, yo, it's over on my Patreon, yo. Yeah, that's a good effect, isn't it, Lindsay? That one, the squiggly line. It just helps break up the water so much, and gives you that kind of reflectiveness of the surface of the water underneath the water. I was going to draw like a little cake design or something today, but I'm kind of over it. The 2-year thing in terms of creating a design just for that. I really wanted to do this. This had been like on my to-do list. I'm very happy I did. I think it came together quite nicely. I think the only thing that looks a bit unrealistic, I've just realised, is the sky. If the sun, oh no, I suppose we don't know what's up and over there. That's not the horizon. I was thinking that was the horizon there for a second, and that it was going in behind the horizon, but it's not. Basically, I was thinking, well, the sky there is a little bit too bright when you think about it. But it's not when you break it down, is it? Because the sun is still in the sky. It's not set. It's just set. We're just lower than it, so it's hidden in behind. A cake design would have been delicious. Absolutely, would have been cool. But I just didn't want to do it. I would have, like, maybe next year or something, I'll do a cake design and make it so that it will say happy birthday on it, and you could make it and give it to someone, like with the amount of candles on it kind of thing, for a person, maybe something like that. It could also be a morning as well. That's a great call. That's a really good call. But this is what I mean. This is something I really like doing at the minute. Is it's that final touch of the lighting on the image, just creating where that light source is. And I think, like, you pick up on these things over time that you really like doing, that becomes your style. And I think this is definitely one thing that I think I want to carry on doing, where I have a light source like a sun or a moon, and we create that flare at the end. And I'm happy with that. I think it looks cool. I think it really does look kind of ace. And for me, it takes the design to that final level. It's just that really cool digital kind of look that makes it go from that flatter design, which looks quite dark, really. It still looks cool. That could easily be like a murky, cold day somewhere, you know. That could easily, you could easily select, like, you could even go darker than that. You could go copy all, paste, and you could go like, yep, that's on one layer. We could go hue saturation, and we could drop that saturation down, and then you end up with this one, really cold, really just, I don't know, we can make it darker, just a smidge, not too much, just a really horrible, dark, wintry kind of day, just very bleh. So we can whack the saturation up, whack the brightness back up, could even change the hue slightly. Ooh, that's gone too far with the green, obviously. The green water. If we go the other way and go blue, we get really green and really blue water. Okay, interesting. But we could make minor tweaks like that. Or we can do what I always like to do as well, is paste that in, and then add in some layer effects, blend modes, and just see what ones take our eye. We got a silhouette look to it almost. We got, what else can we find? Screen's too much. That's really aggressive with the contrast. You see how like these rocks start to get like the contrast is huge between like water and land. So maybe that is something you could change, but not to that degree. Yeah, interesting. But we whack that group on, and that just final touch looks a little je ne sais quoi. Right. What's my favourite cake? I like a red velvet. I love a sticky toffee pudding. Oh, like, maybe not a cake. Maybe a sticky toffee pudding. Oh, do you know what I do like? And it's just like a really cheap beauty of a sort of dessert. Is a jam roly-poly with a little bit of custard on it. Oh. That's how we do it. A bit of jam roly-poly. Oh. Oh. Delicious. Delicious. A bit of Aunt Bessie's. Aunt Bessie's with a bit of custard. Oh, sticky toffee pudding, Bethany, is just awesome. It's a cheesecake. Whoa. Look at a cheesecake. Oh, lemon. I love a lemon pudding. Lemon cheesecake. Oh, stop it. And you want to send me some lemon cheesecake, I'm all for it. I'll give you my address, sod it. If I get a delivery of some lemon cheesecake, we'll do it. Oh, hot custard. Oh, what a crime. What a crime. Oh, no, thank you. Oh, bloody hot custard. I hate that. I'm called like every name under the sun in this house for having hot custard, for having cold custard, but I think you're could be a pervert if you use hot custard. I hate it. I hate it. It's horrible. Bloody pervert. Oh. That's my hot take of the day, or cold take, whatever you want to call it. No, thank you. Cold custard, always, forever and always. Oh, what? Hot custard soup? I'm gonna vomit on stream. You're rancid if you have hot custard. Rancid, horrible. If anyone's tuning in right now, I don't do this every week. We don't just talk about cake and custard. Like I've painted this today, just so you know. Like I've been at work. Like I've been doing this. I promise. We have done this. Oh, funky. Listen, we're gonna fall out in a minute. Or hot apple pie. Oh. Apple pie, ice cream, cold custard otherwise. Oh, delicious. I know what's going to happen in a minute. I'm going to get a message in about half an hour and be like, where are you? From Mrs. Crate. And I'll be like, I've just had to pop to Asda and just grab some pudding. Alright, cool. Me and a bunch of perverts were talking about pudding and hot custard, so I had to pop up to Asda and grab some. Alright. You do you. Yeah, apple pie's banging. Absolutely beautiful. Helen, thank you for hanging out. I'm sorry it took a turn at the end and the art stopped at some point, but I appreciate you hanging out. This is typically what happens right at the end of a stream, as I just start to chatter a little bit, but I like it. It's cool, we just get to chill out. Right, I think we wrap it up because this is just silly now, isn't it? And like, maybe I'm going to Asda, I don't know. So this has been cool. This was a really fun design today. Let's maybe again, I just want to look at the difference between, I've removed it off my clipboard, but yeah, talking about progression of your designs, how you can do lots of small things to progress and bring them all together to create something really cool and showcase your skills that you've learned, but creating a big design. So maybe that's my challenge to you. Go back and find a design if you feel comfortable enough right now, and do it from scratch. Learn the things, like start it again, take your colors, do it again, but use different brushes that you've learned since, and all that sort of stuff would be great. Great little challenge for you if you want to do it. We have a neon dancer, ballet dancer design. You may have seen it on stream probably about 1 billion years ago now. That'll be out on Friday. No Patreon tutorial this week. It's your week off if you are a patron. Next week is the To the Beach design, which you've already seen. And then we very quickly move into February. And those designs, there's already 2 done. One of them you'd have seen last week, which was that clouds design. But I revisited it again since that live stream and changed a few things. And I think it could be one of my favourite tutorials I've ever done. Again, it's tying in this effect that I really like, the lighting source right at the end. Just ties it all together. We did it on another design as well. We did it on the cabin in the woods with the sun coming down. We've done it on other designs as well with just that last little flare at the end and light glow, which just gives a really huge change to the design. So that's coming out at the start of February, and then the Valentine's Day design as well, and then I've not done anything after that just yet. I'm kind of always like 3 to 2 videos ahead of myself on Patreon. I have to get mentally way far ahead of myself when we go on our honeymoon at the end of the year in August, and still got that to do, and get Joel designs done and everything else. So I'm out here grinding my backside off. Your B date is in this month, Milo, in January. Oh, cool. Was that next week? No, the week after. Well, yeah. Next week. Yes. That's awesome. So yeah, that's it. That is it. Great little design today. Very pleased with this one. Looks cool. Leatherwood brushes. So that's awesome. But we'll see you all again next Wednesday, I imagine. The only thing I do need to make you aware of is potentially, and it won't be next week and it won't be the week after that, I would imagine, is with the Joel Designs channel taking up quite a lot of my time, the only thing I've considered is occasionally, very rarely, sacrificing a live stream for me having to create content. That's the only thing I would to sort of bring up. There is the odd occasion where I may turn around to you and say, listen, I've got to record, and I will only do that if I genuinely really have to record. The Joel Designs channel is another tutorial in my week to do. And did I say Joel Designs or Joel Create? I meant Joel Designs. That's what I meant if I didn't say that. It's another tutorial in the week that takes up a lot of time to do. So shoot, edit, etc. on top of everything else. So I apologize if that ever happens, but I'm sure you guys understand, and 1 week off here or there is not going to be a killer for the live streams. It will be for purpose reasons such as recording a video. And that's it, really. That's it. We had a really good stream today. I'm really pleased with how that came out. Great to hang out with you. Troy, again, you are still here. Dude, I appreciate you so much. 20 gifted subscribers today, guys. Well, memberships. Let's just all have a moment for what Troy's done for this community. Make sure everybody's got some pretty little badges beside their name. Lindsay says, we might let you off, Joel. You got a note from your mum. Oh, well done. You got a little chuckle out of me. Yeah, so that's it. Appreciate you guys hanging out as always. Oh, Leah, dang. Sad to be just tuning in. Leah, you can always rewind if you want to. With a live stream, you can go all the way back to the beginning and watch the whole thing progress from start to finish, or even just go back a little bit, whatever you want to do. The video will still be up on the channel, but if you do it right now before I leave, you'll still have it. Otherwise, you'll have to wait a couple of minutes, I think, for it to just process on YouTube before you can do so. So again, massive thank you to everyone for hanging out with me as always on your Wednesday evenings or afternoons. The live streams, they always stay up on the channel as well, so you can always go back and watch them. Just go to my channel, go to the live tab, and you can watch them back and just hang out. Keep an eye out for the neon design that comes out on Friday. And also, if you're not a patron already, if you want to join, you can get nearly 60 tutorials with free added every single week. So again, thank you all as well for 2 years worth of support. A lot of you have been here from the start, and a lot of you are extremely consistent with everything. So I appreciate all the support and love. Kiki, again, massive congratulations for you today. I'm very happy for you. Very, very happy for you. That's a wonderful day with a couple of things. So that's great news. Thank you so much, guys, for hanging out, and I will see you again next week. I don't think I'm going to be recording next week, so thank you for hanging out, and I'll see you again on Wednesday. Peace.